What's up, everyone, and welcome to the Football Night in America podcast, where we just get to talk to you from our homes. I'm Maria Taylor. That's Devin McCourty. Devin, what's up?
My wife was excited. I said, Maria Taylor's coming on this week. She said, oh, you guys got the big dog on this week. All of us are just regular people, but you're like the big dog to her. So,
and that's honestly all that matters. I'm just here to make sure that your wife enjoys watching the show, okay? And no one cares about you. Although we were more than happy to have you, but it's really about her. Remember full story, we're going to have story time to start the pod, then we'll get into obviously subject matter. But after I gave birth, what did I tell you? I was like, you need to go and run and tell your wife that she's a queen and take care of her and give her whatever she wants.
And I understood that was a place of emotion. It's a reason why they tell you after a football game, do not react and talk to the media right away. Take some time, take a breath. So I understood exactly where you were coming from. And I said, you know what? She just needs some time.
Oh, okay. We're just going to compare giving birth to a football game. I'm okay with that. Okay, rookie. And Devin is the rookie until someone newer comes onto the show. So I get to call him that forevermore.
But it can be anybody. If we get anybody new anywhere, any department.
No, it can't be like a sound guy or camera guy or something like that. Like, it has to be someone on set with us. Okay?
Okay, I understand.
I mean, because otherwise you wouldn't be the rookie anymore and it wouldn't be fun. And you still don't know your Wi-Fi passcode, so we've got that going on. All right, let's talk about OTAs. Yay! We've got players returning to the field, which is always awesome. We had 21 teams start on Monday. 8 more teams should be starting today, which is Tuesday if you're watching this any other time, including my Falcons, because ATL over everything, and the Commanders. They started last week. Bengals are going to start next week. But one of the big storylines, Devin, is always the guys that are coming back from injury. And obviously the one that James Kaminsky, our famous Jets supporter, would like us to talk about is going to be Aaron Rodgers, because he saw him throwing to Garrett Wilson. He'll never forget anything that happens from now until the first day of the season. What do you make of his return from injury and really what it's going to mean for the Jets coming back after a tough season?
For one, I love JK text us and was like, did you see the play that they showed? It was pretty sweet. It was a 5-yard crossing route. Garrett Wilson in a real game would have got tackled right away by DJ Reed. But because it's practice, he finished and he scored a touchdown. And JK was like super excited. It was like, we got to put that in the show. So here we are. But no,
I do think leading the show off with Aaron Rodgers and the Jets.
I do think there's a great buzz because it's like, let's pick up where we left off last year. We didn't get to see what everything was going to be like. And then they add Mike Williams, another big play receiver, another guy that the Jets can kind of rely on. He's coming back from injury as well. So I think when you talk about this team and everything last year, it didn't go well, but I think everyone walked away and was like, well, everybody else that we thought would play well, played well. We just missed our quarterback. So we're going to just do the same thing. The defense is going to be dominant. They're going to play well. Our offensive line is going to be a little bit better. We use our first-round pick. We got an offensive lineman. We added more players. So now we're going to be able to protect Aaron Rodgers. He's going to be able to throw the ball to Garrett Wilson for 5 yards, and Garrett Wilson's going to do the rest. So I'm excited to see, even though being a former New England Patriot, I live in New Jersey. The buzz is big over here. People want to see this team. They think the Jets will be better than the Giants. I hear a lot of people say that, which isn't normal around here. So I think this team has a chance. I mean, honestly, when you look at the AFC East with Buffalo losing a lot of players, if I'm a Jets fan, I'm not thinking, let's just get in the wild card. I'm thinking, we got Aaron Rodgers. Like, let's go win the AFC East and have a chance to add another Lombardi to the one single one they have over there. So I'm sure they're getting excited about it.
That's what I was going to ask you. What is the tippy top of this experiment for the Jets? If we're at the end of the season and we're like, that went as great as it possibly could have gone, the Jets have done what?
Losing the divisional round. Being realistic, I think they're a team that if they can go and possibly win this division, I think they can get a matchup in a wild card that they could win. I think they'll be competitive with anybody. I think mainly because how good that defense is. That defense can play at a high level again. Having Aaron Rodgers, I think, gives you a chance that, hey, we keep this a one-score game. His mentality, his mental reps, 2-minute drill, I think he can go and win you a game. But I think once you get to the divisional round and now you're talking about playing against Kansas City, you got to play against Baltimore. I think those teams, they have a good defense. They have they have all of those things. I think if the Jets lost to one of those teams, I think that's a successful season for them. I think unrealistic would be, hey, we're going to the Super Bowl. We're going to beat the Chiefs in the AFC Championship, and we're going to the Super Bowl. Dream come true, but I don't see that happening. But football, anything's possible.
Okay, when you saw the schedule come out, we're going to get into schedule release, but you see the Jets on Monday night, and you're like, oh, God, is it happening again? Is it happening again? Did you feel fear for Jets fans?
I did, because I was like, of all things we could possibly do, why? Like, why would we do this to Jets fans and put them back on But then you kind of think back to the game and you're like, hey, Aaron Rodgers went down, but Xavier Gibson has a walk-off punt return win the game. So I'm like, hey, the NFL, they were like, we lost the biggest storyline, Hard Knocks, everything. The quarterback goes down, and we have a walk-off game-winning punt return to end the game. Put him back out there. Now put Salah against Kyle Shanahan, where he came from, San Francisco. They're like, this has all the makings of an even better game. So, but if I'm a Jets fan, I don't want to start with San Francisco. Like, give us something different. Don't give us 100%. Don't give us this team.
100%.
Like, come on.
Happy to see y'all on Monday night, but we didn't want to see the 49ers on the other sideline. I also was like, I just kind of want Hard Knocks to go back to the Jets again. But I was just like, just run it back one more time. I want to hear Aaron Rodgers, what he has to say, the philosophies, like everything that came out of Hard Knocks last season. I kind of wanted it again.
It would be better. Like we had all this buildup. Now we get to see, all right, what did happen? How did everything go down? All right, Zach Wilson's gone. We want to hear all of that. It would be just so much better. That should be a rule. Like, not Hard Knocks 1 year, Hard Knocks 2 years in a row, so we get to follow up to everything we just watched going into the season.
Okay, so Aaron Rodgers, he leads us off, but he's not the only player coming back from injury, probably just the biggest name that we constantly talk about. But there's also guys like Tank Dell, Trayvon Diggs. Who are some other players, key players returning from injuries that we should be talking about as the season comes closer?
Yeah, I think everyone will talk about the quarterbacks. I think another quarterback that I don't think will get as much is Anthony Richardson. I think the way he started off last year, how he was playing the Colts team, we kind of sat there. We were like, hey, this is a contender in the AFC South. Like, the way this guy's playing. So he's a guy I'm excited to see come back. Now they add Joe Flacco over there so he can learn from him. So he's a guy. I would throw Joe Burrow in there, but we'll hear enough about Joe Burrow. Kirk Cousins with your Falcons. We'll hear enough about that, and probably a little bit Michael Penix Jr. as well mixed in there. But what you just said, I think Tank Dell, Trevor Diggs, and Nick Chubb. And I'm interested in these guys because they're impact players for their teams, who their teams exceeded expectations and played really well even without them. So now you kind of sit there and you're like, okay, like what if Trayvon Diggs was on that Cowboys defense, and when the defense started to fall apart and not play well down the end of the stretch, or that playoff game against Green Bay, like what if Diggs is in there and the impact he can have? What if Tank Dell is in the playoff game against Baltimore and they had that explosive threat? And then what if Nick Chubb is just there for the season with Cleveland, of being able to have that running game, and they don't lose to Houston to start off the playoffs in the wild card? So those three guys, and I think Nick Chubb has probably the longest road back because of his injury, how bad that knee injury was. But I think just seeing these guys in the Tank Dell incident he had in the offseason, and it looks good to be young again, because he showed a video last week running routes, and you're like, damn, this guy broke his leg last year, then he got shot, and I was like, this guy's running full speed, running, cutting. So his body looks back and ready to go. So I think those three guys can have a huge impact on playoff teams who have a chance to try to now be contenders in their respective conferences.
I don't think an injury hurt my heart more than Tank Dell, because of what we saw the Texans doing. When that happened, you're just like, dang. Like, everything was rolling for him, and you wanted to see whatever the peak was going to be. And to hate to see CJ Stroud lose him and the team lose him. But I also feel like now we get to see the Texans a couple of times on Sunday Night Football. I'm so thankful. 15 months ago, could you imagine a world in which we were talking about the Texans being on Sunday night? Again, That's going to be great to see him return. Okay, let's talk about quarterbacks, QB news, starting with Jared Goff. He's getting security. He's getting money, okay? And remember, his first season in Detroit, they won 3 games. So really, I just want to do a round of applause for Jared Goff for coming through with this contract, getting this contract.
What was your reaction? Give him love.
You know what I mean? Like, he deserves some love. He went through some things.
And I love it, too, because people right away was like, oh, Jared Goff got that money. And then you slowly start to just put up, all right, this trade when it happened was the Rams get Matt Stafford and the Lions have to take, not the Lions get Jared, they have to take Jared Goff and his contract. And now you look and you're like, oh, wow, Matt Stafford and Jared Goff's numbers are pretty similar. Now, Matt Stafford has the trump card. He got the Super Bowl as soon as he got there. And I think Matt Stafford's a better quarterback than Jared Goff. Jared Goff took the Rams team to the Super Bowl without Cooper Kupp. We played that team. If Cooper Kupp's there, if I'm Jared Goff, I'm telling the world. If I have Cooper Kupp, I'm probably winning a Super Bowl because we only scored 3 points. Give me Cooper Kupp. I think I could get 16. If I'm Jared Goff, that's what I'm thinking. So to see him go to Detroit, have to deal with, hey, we just want this guy out of here. We're going to win without him. And then they win without you. Like that, I couldn't imagine for him that season looking at the Rams win the Super Bowl, being happy for guys he played with, but also in the back of your mind, like, damn, they really got me out of there and won. And now you fast forward and the whole city of Detroit rides with this guy. They had an unbelievable season. Team rewards him. He goes and earns this contract, getting this new money, $212 million. So I think it's a round of applause. I think it's also a great kind of indication and story of a guy who didn't let the media or what other commentators, experts were saying about him. He just went and played football, and he went and he represented the guys in Detroit, the guys on his team. So I love it. I think the way he's played, he's only going to get better. They put the right pieces. Shout out to the Lions in their front office with Brad Holmes. They drafted Sam Laporta. They got all these guys, Jahmyr Gibbs. They have talent in there. So Jared Goff has no reason not to go out there and continue to play well. So I think for Jared Goff, this was well-deserved. It's not like they're just paying this guy because they have to. He went and earned this contract when a lot of people thought he would play out the guarantee money and then Detroit would be looking for their next quarterback. Not the case. And he's there and he's playing well. So I'm excited for Detroit this year. I think they have a chance to really continue the path that they're on from last year.
Yeah, remember, we kind of all thought he was a bridge quarterback, like just get to whatever is going to be the next era of the Detroit Lions. And never forget, too, when he showed up, I mean, fans were wearing bags on their heads. Like what they're doing at Chicago Bears now, where you see it, like they're so distraught, they don't want to show their face. That was going on in Detroit. And then flash forward to, I remember when we were going out to Kansas City, and I don't know if it was on your plane too, but coming from Atlanta, the whole plane was Lions fans. They were so excited about the season. Then they go on to beat the Chiefs in that first game. I mean, they go to the NFC Championship game for the first time since 91. I mean, before Devin was born, right? And they're able to have behind a guy that they really thought was just going to be there for a moment, not the whole movement of taking the Lions to where they are now. I think it's pretty extraordinary that he gets this deal. There's a no trade clause in it. He mentioned that he wanted that kind of security. Like that is something that was important to him when he got this deal struck. Not only that, remember they extended Amon-Ra St. Brown, Penei Sewell. So, they've got some guys that they're able to build around, and we love to see where they're going. But the real question is, have we ever seen, because we didn't think this was going to happen, but a trade that works out for the Rams, they get their Super Bowl, and for the Lions, they get their quarterback of the future. How rare is it that we see something come together so seamlessly like this in a trade for both teams?
It's so true, because as soon as trades happen, we're like, let's break down who won the trade. And you're like, all right, well, the Lions got 3 first-round picks. Well, those picks have turned into great players. But no matter what, you look back at the Rams and you're like, they won a Super Bowl. Like, if you make a trade and you win the Super Bowl, I don't care what happens 2 years later, 5 years later, ultimately the only goal is to win a Super Bowl. So no matter what, they won. And I think you look at Detroit, not only are they in the NFC Championship, they were a 4th down call away from just kicking a field goal, but also 2 drop passes away from Dan Campbell being gutsy. Only he would call it and go for it. And if they catch those passes, we're sitting here like, I probably wouldn't have made that decision. I remember when we were sitting in the back watching and sitting next to Coach Dungy, and me and Coach Dungy are both saying the same thing. He's like, just kick it, just do it. Like all of those times. And that was a Tampa Bay game. So then you fast forward and it's the same thing. And that's all I kept hearing was Coach Dungy, like, just take the points, do the easy thing. But if you do catch those passes, this team's in the Super Bowl. And then Jared Goff, no trade clause. Detroit now looks like Eminem, Jared Goff. You put the trade clause, you tell the whole city, they can't kick me out. I'm not leaving. Like, I love that. I love it.
The only other person that I'm adding to your list is Jalen Rose, just because he's the homie and he's so Detroit that if we don't mention him, I don't know where he is in the hierarchy, but he's going into the Detroit, compound. He's with it,
All you got to say is black socks and baggy shorts, and I'm all with you because he was the leader of the whole gang right there, whole Fab Five.
Okay, let's keep it in the quarterback vein and potential deals kind of coming up, guys that haven't secured him yet. And let's talk about Tua Tagovailoa with Miami, and we can talk about Trevor as well. Tua didn't go to voluntary workouts. He's been at OTAs. And Trevor Lawrence may be a deal coming. Obviously, he's entering his 4th year. Which quarterback do you want to start with? Which quarterback's deal do you think would get done first?
I think Trevor Lawrence's deal will get done first. I think the way Jacksonville views him is probably very similar to the way him and his agent view themselves and their relationship with Jacksonville. I think Jacksonville's looking like, hey, we drafted this guy first overall. We want to have him here. We want to extend him. He's been great. And I saw this week Darren Orlovsky had a different opinion. He felt like, hey, I'm not sure that we should be talking about this tier of money because that's the world we live in now with quarterbacks. All of these quarterbacks are kind of ranked on what we see on the field, but then what they're able to get in their contracts. Then we want to rank like, all right, this guy's good, but he shouldn't be in plus 50. All right, this guy should be at 40, but not more than 45. Like we all, I think when we're not playing anymore and we're sitting and watching the game, we want to rank all these quarterbacks all on the money. But the truth of the matter is, once you're a free agent and other people sign a deal in front of you, you look at it and you say, okay, my goal is to do better than what they did, whether it's average per year, guarantee. So I just think the Jaguars and, Trent Balk and Doug Peterson, I think they just feel the same way about Trevor Lawrence as he does. And I think that will enable them to get the deal done faster. You don't hear rumors of Jacksonville saying, hey, we might want to get this quarterback or we might want to draft a guy. And I think on the flip side of that with Miami, and I want to give a big shout out to Tua because you look at the path of his career was go get Deshaun Watson. We should have drafted Justin Herbert. It's been nothing but these kind of he's not good enough things coming out from whether it's sources in Miami, whether it's people watching the Dolphins. And all he's done is go out there and put up numbers and produce and go play quarterback at a high position. So I think this deal will take longer because I don't think Miami necessarily sees Tua the same way that his numbers have put him in place to make the money that he should make. So I think we've always heard that. We heard, oh, Tua's our guy, Tua's our guy. But then we haven't really heard, well, they're getting close on this deal. That stuff hasn't been talked about. It's like maybe Tua won't go to OTAs, even though he did. Those are all rumors. So I think this deal will take some time because if I'm Tua, I'm not taking a less deal because we have Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle. Like, hey, I love those guys. They're helping me be great. But, Jalen Hurts in Philadelphia, you have A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith. Great. I love it. But I'm still playing quarterback. I'm still the one that has to play quarterback and make these throws, make the decisions. So give me my flowers too. And the way you show me my flowers is put a lot of zeros after the 5 in front, whatever you want to put, the 55, like whatever it is. But I think that's important for these guys. And I don't knock these guys going to get paid.
Every rose you want to lay at my feet, make sure a 0 is attached to it, and then we will call those my flowers. Please and thank you. I think what it is with Tua is a lot of people think that he's propped up by the system, essentially. Mm-hmm. And so there's like a mastermind puppeteer, and maybe he's not processing the same. Maybe he doesn't have the same skill set. And he also has guys, like Jalen Waddle that he can throw the ball to. Is that something that he's running into? Where maybe Trevor Lawrence, we don't think of him as being supported in the same way as maybe a Tua is in Miami. And so those numbers, he's not getting as much credit for the numbers that we see on paper that maybe he should.
And I think it's 100% true. I just think if I'm Tua, my stance is, well, when I've been hurt in this system, you have yet to find another quarterback that comes in and runs this system the way I do. So I understand that maybe I might not be as good as somebody else in a system, but there's also, if I'm Tua, there's a thought of if you go and get some of these other guys and put them in this system, maybe they're not as productive as me. Maybe they can't do the things that I can do in this system. And I think so far, it feels like Miami, they haven't really targeted a guy and said, hey, if we go get that guy, he can do what Tua is doing in our system. So if I'm him, I'm gonna take a chance. I'm gonna bet on myself and say that because I was in New England when we played the Tua-less Dolphins. We usually ended up on the winning side. I never beat Tua when I was in New England. Every time we played against Tua, whether in New England, in Miami, they found a way to beat us. So I just think, and I know right now, even with Tua, they can't get over the hump. I don't put them as the upper echelon in the AFC. I think they're a good team. They're going to be productive. But I think when they run into the guys, those teams, the Baltimores, the Kansas Cities, I think right now, it's been a struggle for them. They haven't been able to get over that hump and beat those teams. So I don't put them in that tier with those teams. But I think with Tua, they hover right around it. Like that's their chance. And they got to still get over the hump with Buffalo and try to win that division. But if I'm Tua, I understand the system. And I do. I think a lot of players are good in the system that they play in. And I think we have this concept of when we watch a guy that he'll be good in another system. But sometimes those systems are similar, but I don't think it's always true. And I don't think there's anything wrong with saying, hey, I can play in this system and I'm good, unless you can become Tom Brady, the Peyton Mannings, because people are like, well, their system. Yeah, but then they became the system. When Tom left New England, he said, I'm taking my system to Tampa. Peyton left Indy. He took his system to Denver. So those guys, I think, are on a whole other kind of echelon of what they were able to do. And I think we always look to them and say these quarterbacks can do what they do. That is yet to be seen if they can actually have the longevity, switch teams, still implement what they did where they were before. Like, that's not an easy thing to do.
Mm-hmm. And that's what I would forget sometimes when we're thinking about the draft and stuff like that. I mean, it's great to be number one overall. Do you fit the system? I mean, are you going to be in a situation that all of your strengths will be utilized in the correct way? You're surrounded by people that make you better. And for Tua right now, he's got that going on. But I want to go back to the time that you played against him. So as a defender facing the greatest show on turf, what's the hardest part about it? You know, Tua in the offense that you couldn't handle, honestly. Like, what about it forced you to come to television and sit with me and be like, you know what, I'm done. Like, I don't want to do this anymore. This is too much.
I always love how, like, your normal good question goes to a whole nother level. Right. I'm like, let me remind you that you don't play anymore. You're still probably young enough to play, but you got beat so bad.
Play. Every time I see your traps, I'm like, I mean, he could be on somebody's field, but he chose to put a tie on. So something hurt him. Who hurt you? Was it Tua?
Tua in Miami was definitely one of them. I was getting tired of that when he was out there. But I think it was the speed of how everything operated. It would be whether whoever the running back was, Mostert, different guys I played against, they could hit the hole and be flying. But then you would look up and Tua would keep the ball, and now it's a play action pass, but he would throw the ball, and he has such a quick release on the fifth step of his drop going backwards, the ball would be out. And now at safety, I'm trying to run up and make a tackle. It's Tyreek Hill, it's Jalen Waddle. They got 15 yards of space. Now I got to tackle him. Now they're saying he looks old. He lost the step. He's not saying, I was like, you know what? I'm getting tired of that. That's what the people used to say, and then you come home, your nephew's getting a little bit older, your son's older, so they're watching the game. They're like, Daddy or Uncle Dad, like, man, y'all got y'all butt whooped. I was getting tired of that. I wanted to go on TV. Now they don't even watch me. They just watch the game. So it's a safer space. My mental health is doing a lot better.
Except and to be honest, we win every show. Like, even on our worst day, we still won the day.
It's a win. That's the first thing I told people. They was like, how do you like it compared to playing? I was like, we win every week. Every week we win. I was like, you cannot knock that. That's hard to do. No coach can do that.
Mm-hmm. I want to take you back to Trevor Lawrence for a second, because we kind of glazed over him a little bit. But in entering his fourth year, and just even like when you plot his career, like, the first year of Urban Meyer, we're like, okay, let's just watch that. Let's pretend like it didn't happen. That was tough. No one deserves that, right? Second year, Doug Peterson comes in and it's like, wow, like they might be on to something. This is going to be a team that's going to threaten, they make it into the playoffs, whatever. And then last year, I think it started out great. I think they started 8-3. Then they lost 5 of their last 6. Calvin Ridley comes in. Like, there were so many expectations, and I feel like it just fell flat. Now, I don't know who should be held responsible. Is it Trevor? Is it a progression that we're missing? Is there something that didn't happen in year 4 that you would like to see? Is it what's surrounding him? Like, what was your takeaway from the Jaguars season, like the complete season last year?
Yeah, I think for Trevor Lawrence to be that guy, it has to be another step. You think back to the playoff game when they lost to the Chargers. They beat the Chargers. But you watch that game and you're like, this guy comes out and he has a terrible half of football in the game. Turnovers, can't get anything right. Second half, he just dismisses that. Comes back, leads the team every drive. When you go down that many points, every drive is a clutch drive. I know we always watch in like the last 2 minutes or minute and 20 seconds, but when you're down, a turnover, a strip sack, like anything like that can end the game. So when we played in Super Bowl 51 and we were down to the Falcons, every drive became a clutch drive because you had.
I honestly don't see the correlation.
I know you're a Falcons fan, so I want to remind you of great comebacks. Great comebacks. The quarterback has to be on the money. And I think everyone now wants to see Trevor Lawrence have that second half approach he had every single game. How can we always make sure that you're that guy? And I don't care if one receiver's out or this guy's out. Like, how do you now turn whoever's in the game, whoever's around you, how do they still become better players? How do you implement new guys in there and they come in and still, like, how does Gabe Davis now come in this year and you jump right in stride with Gabe Davis? And we're watching not just Gabe Davis. I was like, oh yeah, he was good. But we're watching this new level of Gabe Davis get unlocked. And it's like, well, Gabe Davis just needs to get to Jacksonville with Trevor Lawrence and now look at their rhythm, look how they're right in stride. So I think that's what people want to see, because overall last year, I think Jacksonville's defense hurt them as well. They moved on from the defensive coordinator. I think they're going to do some things differently. But I think even with that, I think their defense had games where they played well, but then the offense struggled. I think they need Trevor Lawrence to be that guy week in and week out, delivering the plays that need to be made. They don't need him to throw the ball around and get, 450 yards every game. I think they have a great head coach. I think one of the best offensive minds in Doug Peterson. I'm saying that because they lit us up in Super Bowl 52. Nick Foles, 40-something points, couldn't stop anything. So I know firsthand Doug Peterson's a really great offensive-minded coach. So I think he understands that, hey, I don't need Trevor Lawrence to be God's gift of football every single Sunday, but I need him to be a reflection of what I'm teaching when he goes on the field, that we make winning plays all game. And I think that is the next step for him to be in the next tier of quarterbacks. When you talk about like Josh Allen, Joe Burrow, Lamar Jackson, I think like that's the step he needs to take if he wants to get to that level with those guys.
You're looking for some consistency, essentially.
Exactly.
In his game. Yeah. Exactly. Sometimes I think about it and like he, big, huge dude, had success in college. I think about Matthew Stafford and the progression that Trevor Lawrence is still so young. You know what I mean? Like, it really is just his 4th year. And you would have wanted him to be able to maybe connect a little bit more, be more consistent with Calvin Ridley or some of the things that you would hope develop over time. But I just believe that the highs are more important than the lows that we're seeing right now, And so I would believe if I'm Jacksonville, like, I still feel like I got the guy. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
it's going to take time. But we got the guy, though.
And I think that's what's so different now in the NFL. Like when Matt Stafford came out, it was like, okay, like this team's bad, but like we keep seeing him do things that were like, that's special. Like he's a really good quarterback. And nowadays we see quarterbacks and we're just like, they got to take their team. They got to go win the big game. You're like, dang, like you just said, it's only his 4th year. Like this team wasn't good when he got there. They had the first pick for a reason. They had a new head coach for a reason. All of those things. And we're like, but he's 4 years in and we haven't seen him win the big game. And you're like, 4 years in from the number one pick we want. But then we see these stories. We see the CJ Strouds. We see like these different things that make us believe that it just happens. Like these teams just turn around and win. But I agree. I think Trevor Lawrence, there's a reason when he came out, everyone was like, this is a generational talent. He's athletic. He's 6'6", great throwing motion, can make every throw. His arm strong. Like there's a reason people felt like that. And that's why I think this deal will get done. Both sides feel like this is a great relationship. He's a guy that needs to be here. They want him there. So it's just, to me, a matter of fact of like, once the time gets close, these deals don't get done until people feel pressure to actually get it done. Other than that, it's just talking. But I think they'll get this done before this season so he doesn't have to go out there and play and risk injury.
You know who ruined expectations for all quarterbacks? Patrick Mahomes. It's his fault. We should just blame him. We should just
You could throw Patrick. You could throw Andrew Luck when he came to Indy, and right away, generational talent. We played these guys in the AFC Championship, I think, 2014. It was his second or third year in the NFL. He's already in the AFC Championship. He took off. So he's another guy that as soon as he got in the league, Peyton Manning got hurt the year before. They won 2 games. Andrew Luck comes in and is like, I remember being in New England like, that's not fair. Like, you don't get to have Peyton Manning all those years, and then Andrew Luck comes right in and just takes off. So, yeah, it's these couple stories that make us forget about all the other picks who got drafted early and didn't do well. We're like, but so-and-so, they made it to the conference championship. That's all that matters.
That's all that matters. That's all I remember. That's all I can think of. But that's the quarterback position. Let's talk about some skill positions. The wide receiver position, Justin Jefferson. Still, they're working on a deal, obviously. Actually, it's been in the work. I mean, you hear them talk about it like 12 months. They've just been trying to figure it out. With A.J. Brown now having inked he's making $32 million a year. I know it's going to get done. Like, period. It has to happen. But what do you think about the process for Justin Jefferson? Him to just be patient. He's another guy that just needs to wait on it. And you have no problem, right, with guys trying to get their money completely.
Justin Jefferson, go in there, run your routes on air, run on the side field. You don't need to go practice. Don't do any of that. Go get paid. And I think, to me, that's so important because in football, you have a window. Everybody's window is different. We just brought up Andrew Luck. Most people thought when he got in the NFL, this was going to be a 15 to 20-year window to play football. He gets injuries. I remember talking to him and talking about how taxing it was on him mentally. He's done. I think it was 8 years. He retires. He's out of the NFL. So for Justin Jefferson, you don't know what the future holds. You've been, outstanding. You've been in a tier of your own. In a day and age in the NFL right now where there's a lot of great receivers, there's a lot of names that we can throw out there and you'd be like, I'll take that guy. I'll take him on my team. Tyreek Hill is one of those guys that I think is in the tier with Jefferson, but you talk about A.J. Brown, Jamar Chase, you talk about Ross St. Brown, all of these guys who have unbelievable numbers. We sit here and we go, yeah, but Justin Jefferson, JJ, he's different. They played Buffalo. Kirk Cousins was in trouble. He just threw it up. Justin Jefferson reached back, one hand. It was just like, this guy's unbelievable. And we'll have to see, losing Kirk Cousins. I think Kirk Cousins is a little bit of a gunslinger. Drop back. JJ, go do what you do. I'm going to throw it up there. We had him double team a couple times. Kirk Cousins threw it up there when we played him 2 years ago. Justin Jefferson came down with the catch. Like, the guy's unbelievable. And I think when you're that way, like, you have to go get paid because you don't know what injury, like, you don't know what it is. And the NFL makes so much money. And I think sometimes we look at these players and we're like, man, that's messed up. Like, you need to go support your team. You need to show up. And then we look at Nick Chubb. Nick Chubb has been the whole team for Cleveland year in and year out. Their offense is built around him. He gets hurt this year. He comes back. He signs a restructured contract that now he'll still be able to make money, but it'll be incentive-based. So he'll have to go earn that money this season. And other people look and say, well, there's nothing wrong with that. Go earn your money. I get it. I understand if you're watching as a fan, you believe in that. To me, you signed a contract. Now the team comes to you, and trust me, I was a player. Nobody says, hey, guys, come take some of my money. I'll sign. No, the team comes to you and says, hey, we want you here. We need you to sign this. We don't want this to go further. might have to trade you, might have to release you. So guys want to stay where they're at. So you have to restructure. So I think for Jefferson, you can't take that risk. You've played well enough. You're short time in NFL that you want to get paid and you want to get paid now. So I don't think he steps foot on the field again until he gets paid or traded. And I understand that. Go hold in, do whatever you got to do to prepare yourself for the season. But I don't go out there and do 11 on 11 and risk injury when you know the team can pay you.
Mm-hmm. I feel like there's so many stories like that. And the running back position is different because I feel like Todd Gurley, same situation. Like it was like a few years removed from him having like the biggest contract the running backs ever signed. And then it was like basically out the lead or with the Falcons and then out of the league. And so you never know what's going to happen. But Justin Jefferson, you kept mentioning it, like top tier, top tier, top tier. He stands kind of alone, one of ones. If you're drinking, we would call that top shelf. I mean, obviously, Devin and I don't drink. We do not partake. We are good angels and everything. But it got us thinking along the same lines and level of Justin Jefferson. Let's try to build a team like Devin's all-stars, if you will. Who would be on the same tier as Justin Jefferson when you go down the line? We'll start with quarterback. We'll get to running back. Like, we're going to go through the offense. And I think I know who you're going to pick for quarterback. If you don't, then we're going to fight. But let's start with top tier quarterback and Devin's team.
Quarterback's easy. It's Patrick Mahomes. And there's other guys who are really good at quarterback. I love Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, Joe Burrow. Like, these guys are fantastic. But if you say top shelf, you say this is that one wine or that one tequila. I might have tasted tequila before, so like that would be something I picked. You say like this is the upper echelon. Like, if you're gonna drink the best, this is the best. Then to me, it's Patrick Mahomes. And if you go a tier down, that's still really good. Those are those other guys that you would throw in there. But if you say elite of the elite, to me, that's Patrick Mahomes at quarterback. And right now, there's nobody else where he's at from that tier.
Agreed. Not even close. So we don't have to fight. Right. I'm really thankful for that you weren't even like going back and forth in your mind trying to figure it out. Like, he can win a Super Bowl on a bum ankle. Like, and it actually doesn't matter who else is playing with him because we're not going to remember. You know what I mean? We're just going to
exactly.
I don't know. Patrick Mahomes won the Super Bowl. All the fans at home, that's all they're going to remember. That's it. And maybe Travis Kelce now. We're going to, Taylor Swift, Travis Kelce, we're going to remember. Running back. Who is your top tier upper echelon running back?
Christian McCaffrey. McCaffrey's the guy in Carolina. He was the offense. He goes to San Francisco, and I think the thought process was like, well, finally this guy will get a break because they have so much talent in San Francisco. He gets to San Francisco. The offense revolves around him still. Everyone talked about, well, is Kyle Shanahan going to give this guy a little bit of a break because of how many snaps he's playing, how many times he's getting the ball in the run game and the pass game? It's like, nope. He's still going to be the bell cow of this offense. So to me, this team in San Francisco to me is like one of those all-star teams. They have first team, second team, all pros everywhere, offense, defense. And when you usually look at this team and you say, hey, who's the guy? It's Christian McCaffrey. He's in that tier. He's alone. There's other great running backs. I love watching Saquon Barkley. I think his versatility, what he can do. I think he has a chance this year to go from the Giants and be in their whole offense. And this Eagles offense that struggled last year, I think if he goes to the Eagles and right away this offense takes off, he has a great year, I think he starts to creep in that Christian McCaffrey category. But for me right now, being very selective and being, hey, this is top tier, Christian McCaffrey to me is that guy. When you play San Fran, you say, how do we stop CMC?
I was going to say, if we were talking about every single player in their prime and no injuries were accounted for, Nick Chubb, like you mentioned, Saquon Barkley, do some of them inch into the same tier as Christian McCaffrey or still one of ones?
No, I think they do. I think Nick Chubb definitely. I think Derrick Henry would have a chance if he continues, like even if he goes to Baltimore and takes off. I think the impact he had in Tennessee of what he was doing, Ryan Tannehill, the quarterback, A.J. Brown started to really come on as a young player. But overall, when I was in New England, we played against Tennessee, it was like strictly, if we don't stop this guy, we won't win. It was like, no matter what else we do in the whole game, if we don't stop this guy, I just don't think going into 24, Derrick Henry is viewed exactly the same as he was maybe 3 or 4 years ago when I played against him, whereas like Christian McCaffrey is still that guy. But I think Nick Chubb and Saquon Barkley are two guys where I'm like, man, like you take away the injury, I think Nick Chubb would have had a great year again last year if he doesn't get hurt in that Cleveland offense. And I think, again, like I said about Saquon Barkley, I'm excited to see what he does in Philadelphia this year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, something about Georgia and running backs is interesting. Just works. Wide receiver. You gave us one in Justin Jefferson. You mentioned a couple others. Is there anyone else going on the top shelf?
Tyreek Hill. Justin Jefferson, Tyreek Hill. I think Tyreek Hill is the same way as Justin Jefferson. When you play against Miami, I don't care what else goes on, you better find a way to slow down Tyreek Hill, because at any moment he can have that breakout game, whether he was in Kansas City with the best quarterback in football and everybody was like, oh, he's tripping. You don't leave Patrick Mahomes. You don't find the generational quarterback for this era and leave. He goes to Miami and he flirts with 2,000 yards. You're like, what? Like flirts with 2,000 yards, and you're sitting there at one point during the season, we're like, he's going to get 2,000 yards. Like, this is ridiculous, because week in and week out, same thing as Justin Jefferson. The whole defensive game plan is to stop you. And we look and we're like, how the hell do you have 250 yards receiving? How do you get to 195? That's what those guys, that's the impact they have that to me put Tyreek Hill in that same category. And that's no knock. A.J. Brown, Jamar Chase, like all of those guys are phenomenal. I just think they're not even a full tier. They're just like a half a step below these two guys.
And it's like generational speed. Sometimes I'm like, we call him a wide receiver, but it's like it's something else. Like something else is happening on the field that we haven't seen before, which is how I feel sometimes about Patrick Mahomes. Like, I think he's playing basketball on the football field or something, but like the speed that it just looks different. Like, you're not playing the same position as everybody else. Like, your shelf is somewhere over there. It's still top tier, but I don't even know if you're a wide receiver. When I see Tyreek Hill play, that's how I feel sometimes.
Marie, I lined up against him. I was out there and I played against Randy Moss. I played against some guys, and Tyreek Hill did a couple things on the field. We had him double team one time. He runs, he breaks in on the post. And I mean, he takes off on me, runs inside. So I'm supposed to be the inside part of the double. I run. He put his foot in the ground and broke outside. By the time I turned around, he's 10 yards away from me. I just looked I looked for the help. Like, hey, you better get there, because I'm not getting there. It's impossible. Like, that dude is unreal, because it's quickness and speed, which most guys don't have the top of the top. God saw him and was like, hey, speed, empty the cup, quickness, empty the cup. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. I'm happy not to play against him anymore.
Yeah. Adding Tyreek Hill to the reason why I get to call you rookie. Okay. I will take that. What about your top tier tight ends?
Tight ends, you mentioned it. And I know he's getting older. We didn't see the same Travis Kelce all year last year, but I was talking to my brother about this, and we both said the same thing. If I was playing a Super Bowl tomorrow and you said, pick your tight end, I'm picking Travis Kelce. And that to me shows the tier he's at when it matters the most. They get in the playoffs. The guy's unbelievable, whether it's you're going to play man-to-man, whether you're going to play zone. He understands what to do at the highest level and does it every time they need in a big game. And the only other guy I would put in the upper echelon is George Kittle. And the reason why I put Kittle in there is because, to me, Kittle's the guy right now at tight end. He blocks, he catches the ball. He not only catches it, once he catches it, he's hard to tackle. He breaks tackles, he scores. To me, Kittle is the best overall tight end. When you look and you say what you want out of a tight end, and I think Kittle's the guy that if we put him on another team other than San Francisco, who has weapons everywhere, he would get probably 20 to 21, 22 targets a game, probably 12 catches. He would always have career numbers because he would just be their best matchup on the field. We don't see that as much because San Fran has a lot of best matchups on the field. So, but I think his skill level, what he does, the energy he plays with, I would put him in that elite category, especially at the tight end position.
Okay, so Travis Kelce 1A, and then Kittle 1B.
Yeah.
That's my takeaway. Like okay, I just want to make sure that everyone knows where they stand. George, if you have issues, you can obviously at Devin McCourty. We will put his Twitter up if you have any questions or you want to send something. What about your offensive line?
Offensive line is where I'm limited. I'm not gonna lie to you. I text friends, I text coaches, and I
You're
text.
like, Chris, what do you think?
Yeah, I text a couple people like defensive linemen, linebackers. I asked because I'm like, when I was on the field, I stayed away. I didn't want to be by any offensive lineman, and I picked two guys. I picked Trent Williams and I picked Zach Martin. Two guys, to me, I get it. They're older guys now. When we're on with Jason Garrett, he talks about drafting Zach Martin and Dallas. So that means when you were drafted there, when Jason Garrett was there, that was a while ago now. So that means he's getting older. Trent Williams was drafted, I think the year I was drafted or the year after. That means he's really old. So you look, but these guys are still the guys when they play against different players on defense. They're drawing up game plans. They're trying to figure out how we're going to beat these guys. What are we going to do to combat what they do well? So that to me puts you in a really elite category because guys have to prepare for you. When the broadcast starts, they're talking about how great you are, what you're able to do for the offense when you're on the field. We saw when Trent Williams wasn't on the field last year for San Fran. It was tougher on them. So I think those two guys are elite. I think the next wave of those guys will be like Penei Sewell. I think Laremy Tunsil's in that. My guy that I played with in New England, Joe Thuney. I think those guys, Creed Humphrey at the center position, are guys that are right there. But I think these two guys, because I mix it with having a dominant presence and longevity, doing it for a long time, being elite over and over and over again. And as you can see, other than Justin Jefferson on this list, these guys are older. These guys have done these things for a while now in NFL. I think that's what makes you elite. You have to do it. So there's some younger guys that you look and you're like, they're going to get to that level. But these guys, I think, are the guys that I would say, hey, any game I ever play, and you tell me I have to win one game, I want these guys on my football team.
So according to Devin's top tier dynasty, whatever we want to call it, the 49ers should be winning the Super Bowl because you've got three of them on this list.
And we talk about it all week. Like the 49ers are as talented as any team. It's a reason they played in the Super Bowl. They just, and I think sometimes we lose track of this, but if you go back to the Brady era with Peyton, like these different quarterbacks you look at in another sport, Michael Jordan, you look at LeBron James, Steph Curry, like these guys, when we look back at history, we're going to say, they took a championship away, or they took championships away from really talented teams just because of them. Like San Francisco, good football team, overtime, Kansas City Chiefs. The difference was Patrick Mahomes. Like Patrick Mahomes got the ball last. And we talked about it after the game. A lot of people talked about it. You probably don't want him to have the ball last, but he did. And you lost. And it's the same thing. I got to see it for 10 years. Playing on the football team with Tom Brady was unbelievable. We played in games as a defense when we left the field. It was like, I can't believe we just lost this game for our team. And I remember young guys, and I'd be like, hold on, buddy. Don't you speak that into existence. That guy on the other side, Tom Brady, he's unbelievable. And I just think like San Francisco, this team might not win a championship strictly because they had to run in to Patrick Mahomes. Like twice in the Super Bowl, they've lost to Patrick Mahomes. And what ends up happening over time is the other teams in your conference start getting better. So Detroit, the Dallas Cowboys, the Green Bay Packers, you got to start dealing with those teams that make things even tougher to get back to the Super Bowl and try to win it. So it'll be interesting to me going forward and watching how good San Francisco is as a team, but I don't think it takes away. Like we didn't even mention Ayuk and Deebo Samuel, who are two really good players. And we didn't even talk about defense where they have some of the top guys on defense. Fred Warner's the best linebacker in football. Like it's ridiculous. So it's a really good football team.
Yeah. It's like in another world or just another decade, right? They could be the team of that decade, but because there's a Patrick Mahomes, it's almost impossible. And then you think about windows and how long they're open and how quickly they shut. Like the Kansas City Chiefs window will be open way longer because of Patrick Mahomes. And unfortunately, for all those skill positions, like how long we know that Christian McCaffrey, like he's durable and everything, but for how long can he produce at the same level, taking the beating that he constantly does, or Deebo Samuels, we've seen him deal with the injuries. And so like that window could shut and they never have an opportunity to win the Super Bowl, like you said. And so it's so interesting to see like you said, the impact that Patrick Mahomes has on this entire league. Okay.
Think about how good some of those Chargers teams with Phillip Rivers, like 13-3, LaDainian Tomlinson, Antonio Gates. And then you look back and you're like, oh, wow, yeah, they lost to the Patriots in the playoffs that year. They lost to the Colts. Like, it is ridiculous, but like it doesn't take away. But like those teams were good, but they ran into some quarterbacks who were just aliens, basically.
Yeah. We'll do a documentary on the could have beens one day.
We can executive produce it.
Fault they weren't. Yeah. All right. Last but not least, we got to go through a speed round talking about our reactions to the schedule release. Did you guys care about these when you were a player? Like, did you sit around and wait for the schedule and like put it in your calendar?
We're not that, but we looked at the prime time. You want to know who you got on prime time. You want to know that. And then the biggest thing is, when is my bye week? Don't give me the week 4 bye week. Give me that late bye week so I get a good rest and make this playoff push. But other than that, no, like you didn't, because we always feel like you didn't know how good a team was going to be. But if we're playing Sunday Night Football, I got to know, all right, what cleats am I going to save for Sunday Night Football? Because I want to have my fire when I get on. Like different things like that you want to know.
Exactly. That's the whole point. Right answer. The correct answer is we only looked at the Sunday Night Football schedule because that was all that mattered. Okay. And then whether or not you were going, okay, on bye weeks, last question, did you take vacations? Were you just trying to stay at home? Were you in Cabo?
So no, I didn't get too far away, but I will go back to New York, go to New York City. And then the hardest thing as a football player is you get married and you have kids, and all of a sudden you're going to water parks. Your wife is throwing out the idea of possibly going to Disney during a bye week, and you're looking at her like, why would I go walk around Disney when I'm supposed to be off my legs? So yeah, I ended up at a lot of indoor water parks and stuff like that, took over my bye weeks. Yeah.
Actually, I take that back. It was a great idea, and whatever she says goes. So next time, do it.
Not that you're biased or anything.
Exactly. I'm sorry. I'm on her team. Sunday Night Football matchups. What's the best one or the one that you're most looking forward to? And the matchup being the teams, because we'll get into the quarterback matchups, but like a team matchup that you're most looking forward to on Sunday night.
I couldn't just pick one. And I went with early season matchups. I went week 4, Buffalo at Baltimore. I like that matchup because I think Baltimore comes back this season saying, we still think we're going to be dominant. We're still going to go produce. But I think Buffalo now has some question marks. And I think when you have question marks, one of the key things you have in your season sometimes is like a big Sunday night game early on can sometimes be a defining moment in your season. If Buffalo can go into Baltimore and beat them week 4 Sunday Night Football, I think that gives them the confidence. And I think it's the same thing with Pittsburgh week 5. You got Dallas coming into town. You have 2 new quarterbacks in your room. You're trying to turn this around and get back to Steeler football. And I think it's pretty good if you can beat a Dallas team that comes on the road Sunday Night Football in your home stadium. You can beat them. I think Pittsburgh could be a team that takes off and builds confidence. So I'm very intrigued by those matchups early in the season because I think it can define the season for some of those teams.
I mean, I just went with game 1. Like, I'm thinking the Ravens and the Chiefs. And part of that is because the Chiefs are never the same team in the beginning of the season as they are at the end. I mean, remember being there last year. We were all together last year when they took on the Lions. And it was like a real question. I think maybe only Rodney actually picked the Lions, but it was like, who is this Chiefs team? Who are they going to be? And obviously they end up being the Super Bowl champs, but I think it's a great opportunity for the Ravens to make whatever the statement is they would like to make starting this season. Wanted to be in the Super Bowl a year ago, and to be that first game on Thursday night, all eyes on you guys. Derrick Henry's joining into the fold. Like, what does this Monken offense look like with Derrick Henry? Like, I'm just really intrigued and interested to see team versus team, what that looks like on the field. And it's the first game of the season, and we get to be there for it. So I'm most excited too that we get to be boots on the ground.
I was about to say, we know you love to travel. You want to be at the game and the energy.
I do. I'm actually very disappointed, and I don't know if this is official, but that we're not going to Brazil. Like, I'm like, surely we could make it work. Like, we could do Thursday. I can still do college Saturday. We can get to Brazil. We can figure it out. We can come back. Maybe we could do Sunday from Brazil. I don't know. Like, I feel
just be in Brazil.
just stay there. We just stay there for the whole week and do it from there.
I like it.
Okay, what about your quarterback matchup that you're most looking forward to on Sunday Night Football?
I'm looking at Week 14, Kansas City, LA Chargers. I want to see it. I think we've watched this matchup through the years where Justin Herbert comes out, has his magnificent game. They're winning, and then out of nowhere, Kansas City will come storming back. They'll get the win, and we'll be like, "Oh, that's just Patrick Mahomes." So I want to see. All right, Justin Herbert, he gets Harbaugh with him now. It's this kind of new offense. We're going to probably run the ball more. We're going to do all right, I want to see these two guys go at it. I want to see this even matchup in this division where we can say Justin Herbert versus Patrick Mahomes is what we want to see twice a year, every year, because this is great football. So I'm excited to see that. I think those are two quarterbacks in the division and in the NFL that, I think are two of the better quarterbacks. And I think they can have fireworks on a Sunday night game.
Mm-hmm. This isn't a Sunday night game, but it is the Brazil game. So I felt some kind of way about, Jordan Love versus Jalen Hurts, because what we've seen Jordan Love do towards the end of the season and with the Packers, it seems like he's finding another level, like finding another gear. So number one, I want to see what that looks like game one of this season. But not only that, a Jalen Hurts figuring out what is the next level of his game. And the Eagles, I feel like they felt like it was a disappointing season. They wanted to look a little bit better. But these are two quarterbacks that are both young. You know what I mean? Both of them have their teams depend on them. And we're going to see which way they trend with that first game. And I don't know. I just thought that was a great matchup to start out the season and for it to be happening in Brazil. Like there's just like a lot of factors going into it. But I want to see what Jordan Love looks like this year. And I hope that he continues to improve. So I'm just kind of like eye charting him in the Packers games as well.
I agree with you.
You agree? Do you think that he's going to take the next step? I feel like we saw something special towards the end of the season. Where do you think Jordan Love is going to end up at the end of this year?
I do. And off the top of my head, when I sat down with Sims and he's doing his top 40, I put Love at 5. And it's probably aggressive, but I just think it's interesting because you have two quarterbacks at the end of the year. One was going like this and one was going down. Jalen Hurts, that offense, it just didn't look good. And now they're going to open the season. And I just think for Love, like you leave a season where you had to come in with some question marks of like, what can I really do with this Green Bay offense? And you look up and you're like, they had different injuries at receiver. They had my guy from Rutgers, Bo Melton, come off the practice squad. 100-yard game, Sunday Night Football against the Vikings. Like that's Jordan Love taking guys to the next level. So I think for him, he should be so confident coming into the season of like, I watched Aaron Rodgers do this. That was cool. Everybody said he watched. Now I just did it. Like watching is cool, but now that I've done it, I think he's going to come in. And I think he's going to pick off right where he left off, and his team's going to be very productive. And I think he's going to play at a high level.
Yeah, and it's also the storyline of what we've already been talking about, like a quarterback that had an opportunity to watch some and like slowly walk his way into the career of being the starting quarterback, and then a guy in Jalen Hurts who just had to show up. So he's been learning on the fly. And so maybe you do hit walls. You know what I mean? Like what happens when you do stagnate because you hadn't had the same opportunity to grow and kind of mature behind someone else. You know what I mean? So we're seeing like their ups and their downs are happening at different moments in their career, I think specifically for that reason, the development of it. All right, your favorite matchup, Sunday Night Football, head coaching. Coach versus coach.
Coaching. I could have stayed right at the Chargers with Andy Reid and Harbaugh, Chargers, Kansas City. But I thought, like, I'm a defensive guy. Like, DeMeco Ryans, Dan Campbell. I just was like, forget watching the two teams play. Forget watching Houston and Detroit playing in Week 10. Let's just see these two guys throw on boxing gloves, get in the ring. Like, that is the type of game and atmosphere I thought of when I saw Houston, Detroit on the schedule. Head coaching, why both these guys are going to have on tight, long sleeves. You're going to see, they're going to see they did push-ups before the game. They're fit. They're going to be running. So I just love that. I think, Houston, it's inside, it's dome. Detroit, they're a dome team. It's rugged. Like, it just has all the mixings of like these two head coaches just yelling on the sideline. And we kind of wish that they would just meet at midfield and yell at each other. But they seem to be two great guys. We're not going to get that kind of energy. But that's just the energy you feel when you watch how intense both these guys are on the sideline.
Yeah, they both kind of look like low key. Like you could just put a helmet on and like keep going. Like D'Amico Ryan's, like I'm pretty sure there's muscles like coming from the neck to the head. It's already still there. And then Dan Campbell with his energy, like we're taking kneecaps, we're taking whatever you have with us. Okay, like what he was able to do with the line. If we put an octagon around him, I honestly don't know who I'd win. I would not bet on the fight, okay, because I don't know who would win, and I don't want to lose my money. But you're right. Okay, that's a good head coaching matchup. I really do like that. But I was with you with my first thought, which was Andy Reid and Jim Harbaugh. And part of it, honestly, is just, I just want to see Jim Harbaugh and his return to the NFL and what it looks like. I didn't care who the head coaching matchup was. I was just like, where is it on the Sunday night schedule? You know what I mean? Like, when does Jim Harbaugh come onto our schedule in the NFL? And maybe part of that is doing Big Ten's, our Saturday night show. So like working with him for the last year. And he's so intriguing, like some of the things that he says, it'll be fun to see that now with the Chargers and whatever it is he's trying to develop and the system that he's implementing there. So I'm most intrigued just to watch Jim Harbaugh. Andy Reid is Andy Reid. It is what it is. Like it's not necessarily the matchup for me. It's just wanting to see Jim. I'm going to be 100% honest on that one.
I was going to pick it. I was like, you know what? I just picked the quarterback matchup. Let me go something else. But that's going to be a heck of a game. And it's division late in the season. Come on.
There you go.
Be lovely.
And how about this? I don't know if you heard it, but Denzel Perryman said that Jim Harbaugh reminds him of Will Ferrell. I don't know if that's good or bad. I guess it's good.
He said,
funny, right?
He started with, I don't know if this is going to get me in trouble. Because I don't know if it's ever a good idea to compare your head coach to a comedian. An actor is fine, but to a comedian, but it was funny. And I haven't been around Harbaugh that much to know what he meant, but I'm sure there were former players of Harbaugh or guys on the Chargers that when he said it, they was like, that's what it is. I know it was somebody.
Wait, did you immediately? So my mind immediately went to, we've got to get Jim and John into like some kind of stepbrother situation. You know what I mean? Because then I was like, so now we got a movie that needs to be shot.
Somebody needs to do that. Somebody needs to endorse that and get these guys another check because that would be hilarious. If they did that.
And there's never enough checks, if we're being honest. Like, give the brothers some more. Give them some more. But that got us thinking if there's any coach, an actor combo or comparison that you could or wanted to make, who would it be?
Start off with my guy in Pittsburgh, Mike Tomlin. When I think of Mike Tomlin, I think straight of Denzel Washington. I think of like some of the best quotes and stuff Denzel Washington has said in movies that just you walk away and you're like, yeah, man. Or when Denzel Washington has given commencement speeches. And then I think of like the speeches Mike Tomlin gives of when he tells guys, like my brother still tells a story at his rookie symposium, Mike Tomlin coming in and saying, rookies, just remember, it's never as good as you think. It's never as bad as you think. One day at a time. It's like, man, yeah, everybody's heard that before. But it's like when you hear Mike Tomlin say it hits different. And I just think the same thing. Like you could get somebody to say a line, but if Denzel says it, you understand it, your grandma understand it, your mama understand it. Like it goes down all generations. That's the Mike Tomlin and that's Denzel Washington. And my next one was
Can I say something real quick before you go on?
Oh, you got one? Okay.
No. Mike Tomlin is only Omar Epps to me. That is who he is. They are the same person. You cannot convince me that they are not cousins or related or brothers. Like they are the same human being, and you cannot tell me different. And I think for a long time, I thought that Omar Epps coached the Pittsburgh Steelers.
So you're trying to tell me you thought Mike Tomlin starred in Love and Basketball. That's what you're trying to tell me.
No, I thought the star of Love and Basketball coached the Pittsburgh Steelers, okay? Because I loved basketball before I loved Omar or the Steelers or in the NFL. So to me, okay, we're talking about 2000. Love and Basketball came out in 2000, okay? So I'm like in high school, middle school, in love with Love and Basketball and Omar Epps. Omar Epps was the head coach of the Pittsburgh Steelers, okay? I love how
you went right back in time to Love and Basketball came out in 2000. Like that was your movie, huh? Like you were all in.
Yes. Okay. That was my jam. That was it. Okay, go ahead. You had another, but I just had to make sure you knew that.
Yeah. I got Dan Campbell and Stone Cold Steve Austin.
Yes, absolutely.
it just marries up perfectly, I think. And Dan Campbell started off with the introductory, and you said it. You talk about biting kneecaps and grabbing everything, and you just think of Stone Cold cracking a beer, taking a beer down, coming out like. It just goes together so well. So those are the two that came straight to my head when I was just like, dang, Will Ferrell, Jim. Like, so mine aren't as funny, as good as Denzel Perryman. And I do want to give Denzel Perryman a lot of credit because not many guys would throw that comparison out in an interview. They might say it in the locker room, and he might have tested it in the locker room and knew that this is going to hit. So he said, you know what? I got to take it to the media. It's time. So big shout out to Denzel Perryman for that.
I've got one more. And this one just came to me because I don't know, like the bald head and whatever's happening. I don't know if he actually acts like this person, but he reminds me of this person. Robert Saleh is like if The Rock had a little baby boy. So it's like the baby Rock is Robert Saleh.
Well, it's like, because when you see The Rock, you see muscles everywhere.
Yeah.
And like Saleh's not as big. But like when you look at Saleh, you see muscles everywhere. And it's something about being bald. Like D'Amico Ryan, same thing. When you're bald and you're muscular, it just looks like you got muscles in your head. Just everything about you looks like a muscle. So I like that. And I feel like Saleh has the Rock kind of energy. I really do.
He does.
All gas, no brakes. I mean, it goes perfect.
It just works. Exactly. Fast and the Furious, The Rock. See, we got so much going on. Like, I love it. Hit us up if you hate the comparisons. I love the fact that we were able to start and end this podcast on the Jets. And so James Kaminsky can be happy and proud. And if you never ask me back, Jet, just know that I did this one for you. I came out of hiding. I came out of hibernation in the summer to talk about the Jets, okay?
Sadly, we couldn't talk more about the Falcons. Sorry, Maria. Maybe next time.
You did a great job, Devin, rookie. Go back to some water parks. Enjoy the spring. I know that we'll do it again soon. I had a good time. Yeah.
Me too.
Had a good time?
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.